Howdy, folks, and welcome to the second segment of the Santa Fe Man. So glad you're here. I got a great story for you. You know, there is a contract. What happens upon a boat stays upon that said boat for at least a year. But there's also an amendment that if the story is really good, well, you can have at it. And so here's the story: The Wild Man of the Mystic. There once upon a time, I went to sailing, a cruise upon the high seas. I and 4 other men, fine men that is. Skipper David, who owned the vessel. Gary, a man of nefarious origins, and someday I will talk about that. And Mariner, or Captain Pete, as he's known, a professional mariner, skipper, captain, one of the best, out of Newport, Rhode Island. And then, of course, me, stunt man, stunt coordinator, and wackaroo. The boat was a Freedom 36 sloop rig, nice vessel, and she was tied to the slip at Milford Boat Works in Milford, Connecticut. Beautiful place. We would make way the following day. It was early in the morning, as was our custom, but the night before we were kind of recovering because we had celebrated with copious amounts of libations and a lot of laughter. But this morning, I had been overcome by the spirit of whimsy, and my wild man had to come out. He had to be released. I noticed where the trash was always put. It was deposited in a little chamber along the hold known as a lazarette. It was between the galley and the hold was this chamber. And down the bottom of this chamber was a bucket. And you just simply put your hand through a trapdoor and drop it into the bucket. Simple as that. I, the whimsy man, crawled down into the said lazarette, removed the bucket, and wedged myself in. It was a tight fit, it was. And waited as I morphed into dun 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 dun. Now, David and Pete were in the galley. Both men were still in the fog from the night before. Oh, Gary was on the cockpit, and he was staring at me and wondering, what the hell are you doing down in there? I stayed at my post right by that trap door. I did. Then I felt the metamorphosis coming. I felt being transformed. As it took hold of me, the man-beast came and erupted. David was cleaning the sink. As he stuck his hand through the trap, I grabbed it, and I growled, and I shrieked like the hound from Hades. He held fast his arm. I could feel the tremble coming through his arm. I held fast, but knowing that David was a big man, he would tear that wall through to get his arm back, and thus it could sink the vessel. So I let go, and as I let go, I followed through with my head popping it out of the trapdoor with gnashing teeth, bicuspids fuming, snarling saliva, and my banjo strings in my neck sticking way out. And then I screamed. I screamed all it was for worth. I sound like a possessed jet. I looked like the chest creature from Alien. The whole roar, when I let go, shook the vessel. I laughed heartily, came back into the lazarette, climbed myself out, came down into the galley, had a good laugh as I stared at what I had done. Old David was hanging on to the galley. Oh, he didn't look too good. Oh, no. He stood there trembling badly, and he had developed green hues all around his face. Captain Pete, who was standing reared back, and he had fallen upon the bunk, sat hard on that bunk and began davening with his hands trembling and stroking his mullet and wringing his hands like Lady Macbeth. Oh, it was a sight to behold. The beast in me had struck, and it had been released. I subdued my goring, and of course, old Gary, up there on the cockpit, stood aghast with his lower lip trembling. Pete said to me as he stared, stroking his mullet, in that Newport Rhode Island twang of his. You's not right. You's not right at all, Ross Clay. Then David spoke, and this was all in lowercase with no punctuation. That was awful. Oh, whoa. I have blown a rivet, Ross. I said, a rivet? Yeah, what rivet? I leaked. I've had an accident. He then quickly shuffled and staggered off to the head. Now the head is the bathroom, that's where the shower is, to clean himself. Pete still was sitting on the bunk davening, stroking his mullet. Then he started reaching for a cig, as he called it. You's not right. You's not right, he said. He slowly stood up, trying to find his sea legs in shock, and staggered up the galley up into the cockpit. He's not right, he is, I could hear outside, telling Gary. Ross Clay, I heard this ancient voice coming from the head. Ross Clay, I need some help. Bring me a clean pair of shorts, will you? The rivet was bigger than I thought. Thus I acknowledged, brought him a clean pair of shorts. And of course I figured these boys could use some coffee. In between my laughter, like a ninny. I brought their coffee up to them there in the cockpit, as they all stood ashen, shocked, and in awe. Poured them all their coffee with the spoons rattling as they tried to drink. Finally, old Pete said it again, stroking his mullet, and to this day he still does. You's not right. You's not right. David reiterated. Oh, whoa, that was one heck of a rivet. And thus I subdued my man-beast for the rest of history. And there you have it. I was the title for that day. You's not right. This is Ross Clay, the Santa Fe Man. Thanks for stopping by.